going on, guys, and welcome back to the MGB GT wide body Porsche 911 inspired build that we have been doing for the past several weeks. It's really coming along and it's almost time to drive, but right now, well, it won't drive. There's a few reasons for that. First is we lowered it, and we lowered it too much. I like to lower my cars as much as possible and then slowly kind of raise them up until they're drivable. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I love Sonic tools. They're just great. If you're looking for a nice set of tools and you want something that's got a lifetime warranty and has quality customer service, this is the brand to get. So the next thing that we're doing is a really important one. On the Corolla build that we did, I don't know, like 6 to 8 months ago, we lowered it a lot. I mean, probably like 3 inches over stock, and we replaced the shocks with some really like high performance shocks. I think they were like Coney yellows. The thing that happens when you lower a car and when you lower a stock shock, the stroke changes and you're basically running the shock way too hard. What we want to do on this one, since we are lowering it so much, we needed an upgraded shock, and the weird thing about British cars is they use this. This is a lever shock. Now, I don't know if any manufacturers outside of Great Britain use these shocks. I've never seen them until I got the MGB, and I actually was looking for the shocks on this car when I bought it and couldn't find them. That's because they look like this. So this is your upper control arm, and then this lever shock, and this one's stiffer than normal, but it goes up and down with your car and works just like your standard tube shock does. Now, the cool thing about this one is it's from a company called VNC Engineering, who makes performance shocks for these cars, performance lever shocks, which is super cool. They also do like stock rebuilds on shocks, so if you need shocks or need your shocks rebuilt, they can do that. Now, these guys are viewers of the channel, they're subscribers of the channel, which is super cool, and they called me and were like, hey man, we've got this product, we'd really love to help you out and send you a set. So I've got a full set of their upgraded, uprated shocks to go in this car, and it really should make this thing drive way better. Yuck, dude, look at that. So this little door back here has a gasket on it, and it looks like ours has been leaking quite profusely. Now, you saw earlier I was trying to move that arm on the new one, and it wouldn't move. See how easy this one's moving? So the VNC Engineering shock is now in. It is a super easy job, which most of the jobs in this car are super easy. The problem is every bolt gets rusted, and so you have to deal with that. But these bolts were fine. Our shock, as you saw, was super leaky and awful. This one is not. This one's also got an uprated oil in it to make it a little bit stiffer so it'll perform better at a lower ride height. Now, we've got to fix our spring situation. I cut these springs. Yeah, this is a 1-inch drop spring. Now, much to my surprise, it's not that much taller than our cut springs. I don't know if it's actually gonna lift our car up very much, but we'll see. My guess though is that because of the bigger contact patch, we are gonna get a little bit of lift from what we had, and then our new uprated shocks may give us a little bit of lift as well. But either way, I feel a lot more confident about this. This is a 500-pound spring, which for us for now is gonna be good. We may have to uprate it a little bit as we get further into this build, but for now, this is an easy spring to get. It's just your very typical 1-inch drop spring for an MGB, and for me, that just made a lot of sense. If you've been watching this channel for any given amount of time, you know I love learning new things, especially new things that help me to create, whether that's editing video, making fiberglass parts, building wide bodies, drawing. I love learning how to make things. And that's why I'm super excited about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of classes on creating, how to create things. Everything from editing video, to Photoshop, to drawing, to even starting your own YouTube channel. Skillshare has a class for it. And these classes are taught by people who you probably know, people that have made a profession out of their creativity. And it's such an awesome resource for anyone who enjoys learning, and especially anyone who enjoys creating things. I've actually done 2 classes already. One is on making a successful YouTube channel with Jazza, or Josiah Brooks. And the other class is called Filmmaking for All by a guy named Dan Mace, who is from South Africa, has done tons of YouTube videos, and you may recognize his name because he was on Casey Neistat's daily vlogs for a pretty good while. Now, both of these classes were super helpful for me, and I'm gonna be using the information I learned to help create new content for you guys. Each class ends with some sort of project.
When you finished all the lessons, the class project is to create a 3 to 8 minute video telling your chosen story.
Like an action step, and my next video is gonna be the project that comes from one of my classes. Skillshare is also extremely affordable. At under $10 a month, you get access to all of its classes. And the best part about that is that Skillshare exists as a community of people who love to learn and love to learn new creative skills. And so there's no ads, you're not trying to be sold on anything while you're watching these videos. You're just watching the video in order to learn something new, and that is awesome. Skillshare just released live classes, so when you join, you can get in real time with your teacher and with other members to work through projects together and learn new skills. Now, the first 1,000 people that hit the link below will get a free premium membership to help you grow, to help you learn, and to help you create something completely new. It is an incredible platform, and I'm so stoked that they're partnering with Built. Let's get back to the video. I don't know if any of you guys are wondering, but we are going to go wider with these front wheels. But when it comes to building something really crazy like this, a lot of times it's easier to go with as narrow as possible, so you have as much clearance as possible. And then, you know, as you kind of get everything dialed in, you can widen it just like you would on a regular car, just through measuring and stuff. So I'd like to go with like a 10-inch wide on the front. Right now this is an 8 with just a super low offset, so we'd keep this dish but move inward like 2 inches, I guess, or extend the wheel inward 2 inches with a 4-inch lip. I want to see where this thing sits because I actually have not sat this car all the way on the ground because of this. You can see I had to clearance several inches to get enough space for these massive wheels. And so before, the car was actually sitting on a jack, so it was sitting a little bit higher than it needed to be. I do have extra leaves to put in my springs, so if these springs end up being too soft and just squatting the back of the car down way too low, I have the leaves that I can throw back in there to lift it back up a little bit. And there's other options for leaf spring stuff to raise and lower the car. It's just not that big of a deal. It's pretty simple. But before I did any of that, I wanted to see where it actually sat, especially with the new shocks in. We've got new shocks front and rear now, which is awesome. We've got our new lowering, or they'll really be raising springs up front. So I want to see where everything sits first and then come back and start dialing in the rear. The front is basically wherever it sits is where we're going to have to roll with it. So hopefully that works out well. But the rear we will have a little bit of adjusting to do. All right, that's enough talking. Let's drop this thing down and see what it looks like. I'm so soaked. Alright, good news, bad news. We'll go with the bad news first. This is the bad news. That is a huge gap. I don't know how much it's going to settle, but it's definitely not going to settle 2 inches, which is what I needed to settle. It's really weird that it lifted the car up that much. I'm not really sure I understand why. We are doing an engine swap in this car, and the engine's going to be a little bit heavier, so that might kind of make it sit down a little bit. But for now, this is just, I just don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pull these springs out and throw new ones in. The cool thing about this car is when you have broken all of the old 30-year-old rusty bolts free, well, 50-year-old, however old it is, the rusty bolts free, it's very easy to swap parts out. So I'm going to pull the brand new fresh springs out, throw my sketchy cut ones in, and see what it looks like. Alright, so this is a lot more modest. If you guys remember at the beginning of the video, this tire was tucked up inside of here, which looks really cool, but it's not super functional, especially if you're going to drive the car on the street. So this is cool. This feels pretty good. It's still a little bit high, so we may deal with that, but I also think that the sway bar is what's lifting it up. I think. I'm not positive about that. I'll have to do some testing, but before the sway bar wasn't connected and this thing was just dumped all the way down. Now another thing that I did this time is really paid attention to how the springs were seated. I think I might have flipped them over from last time, I can't really remember, but the last time I wasn't paying super close attention to that because I didn't think that it was going to be a permanent thing anyway. This time we may leave these springs in here for a while. So I paid attention to how they were seated. They're seated in there really well. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to like fly out or anything like that. So I think that's going to be our ride height for now. We may come down a little bit, but let me show you what it looks like with the bumper on. Kind of get an idea for how low the car actually is when the bumper's on. And it looks like we've got maybe 3 inches of ground clearance, which is not a lot. It's just enough to ruin your bumper. I like to ride around town with 4, but being as this car's a little bit more extreme than most of what I'm building, I'm okay with it being real low. We'll make a really good mold for this bumper so that if we do blow it up on the street, we can just build another one and it's no big deal. I'm gonna go ahead and just hold this up so you can get an idea of what's going on. Now with this, we're gonna actually take our front fender did mount, let's see, right here, but it was too far back. So now that we've got our ride height figured out, we can just take it and we'll move it up until it's centered on the wheel. About right there. We'll remount everything, and I think this thing's gonna look really, really rad. Alright, so we've got the fenders all clearanced out. We've got our fender flares back on, but we have a problem. The rear is just a little bit too low. Now it does look really, really cool, but the tire and fender kind of contact each other, which isn't good. And this is a solid axle rear end car, so we can't just camber them in to fix that. So we're gonna have to raise it up a little bit, which I have some pieces of the leaf springs that we probably need to throw in anyway. And so we'll do that later, and we'll just throw them back in, and I think it's going to be at the perfect ride height. If we need to adjust from there, we'll use blocks like normal. But for now, to get this thing to work, we want to be able to drive it today. I'm going to pull the spacers off. There's a 1-inch spacer behind this massive 13-inch wide, I think it's 13, maybe 13 and a half, either way, 13-inch wide wheel. So that'll pull it in 1 inch. That'll give us the clearance we need. It won't look as cool, but it is going to work, which is probably more important. So we'll do that, and then I think we're gonna be ready to try to drive this thing again. Despite my best efforts, it's not going to be able to drive in its current state. Let me explain. The rear fenders, though the tires are stretched, the rear fenders still contact the tire, and it looks perfect. It looks great. And if I can get it to travel at that width, we will, but I'm just not sure I'm going to get the travel that I need out of it, even if I go in and trim the fenders. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out later down the road. So what I thought was, well, I'll pull the wheels in. They're on a 1-inch spacer, no big deal. So I got these from the store. This is like a 5 mil. It's actually like 6, I think, 6 millimeter, something like that. Just a regular old spacer. I really don't like these because you lose some of your thread length on your actual studs, but for the purpose of this exercise, I felt like it was gonna work. This didn't give us enough clearance. This tire, this wheel, is as wide as it can possibly be inside of that fender, and with the current axle setup, the inside of the wheel actually touches the bump, where the bump stop for the axle is mounted. So there's like this metal plate. That's what you saw me hammering on just a minute ago. I was trying to just push it out of the way just a little bit. I got enough clearance on one side, but I couldn't get enough on the other side. It just wouldn't bend enough, so I decided to ditch this plan. But I just feel like this video is not complete if we don't drive this thing. We've got to drive it. It's been so long. I mean, it's been like 3 weeks since I've driven it, maybe 4 since I've even started the car, and I need to move it out of here so I can clean up. On top of that, I just want to see what it looks like rolling down the street. So I do have another plan. One sec. Ta-da! I was thinking about how I was gonna manage to drive this thing, and then I thought, well, if the fenders are gone, it should be easy. So I took the fenders off, and it looks sick. Now, I will admit the rear looks cooler with the fenders off than the front, because we radius so much of the front out, but the thing still looks absolutely wild. As I was pulling off all these parts, I'm realizing this is easily the most custom thing I've ever built, and all the time and design and stuff. This is as close to an original design as I've ever gotten, which I'm pretty stoked about. I'm gonna leave the wing deck on because it's cool, but the rest of it's staying off. We're gonna try to get this thing to fire up. Wish me luck. car out? Do you have clothes on?
No, pajamas.
Huh?
Siri, right here.
Oh yeah. Hey, put some shoes on. You can come be in this video.
Okay.
Let's go. I'll go with you.
Did you tell them to pause?
Huh?
Did you pause it?
Pause it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's paused. Hey, show everybody your pajamas. No? Say Happy Mardi Gras. Hey, Happy Mardi Gras to everybody that celebrates it, that watches this channel. I'm gonna get him out here so he can see the car, and then I'll show you. It's actually running pretty good. I know it doesn't sound good, but it's running good.
That will blow off. So you gotta hold on to it.
Yeah. All right, come on, come look at the car. You hadn't seen it in a while.
What kind of car is it?
The orange car, the race car.
Okay. You're trying to make it a YD. You're trying to make it one of the cars that from the car movie.
Yeah, it kind of looks like one of those cars, doesn't it?
The one with the free spoiler. What's his name?
Wingo.
So that's going to be a Wingo car.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Oh, then we need on Wingo's eyes.
Yeah.
Like right in the headlights. Oh, and we need his like thing that plays music.
Oh, that's the blue guy. His name's DJ, I think. I'm a big Cars fan.
You were supposed to make the spoiler big.
Oh, well, I've got those parts in there. I'm still making those out of fiberglass.
Oh, can I see them?
Yeah, we'll go see them in a minute.
Are they inside here?
No. Huh?
What is this?
That's foam. It was in there.
Huh. Right here. We need another one that looks like that.
Yeah. I don't know if I've got another one. Huh?
I'm coming up.
Okay.
Put me beside you.
All right, this thing is so sick. It actually runs a lot better than I expected. Do you think it's cool?
I'm sitting on the engine.
It actually runs pretty good. I may need to pull the transmission out and just see if I can get it sorted because it'll make it a lot easier to drive.
Don't pull that thing out.
But I also made a discovery. I think the shifter isn't installed properly.
If you pull the transmission out, it will shock your whole face.
I don't think so.
Yes, it will.
So anyway.
I learned about that before.
Okay, so anyway, it does seem to shift into gear, but the shifter, I don't think the shifter's right, so I'm gonna investigate that a little bit more. But the engine's running pretty decent. I know it sounds rough, but it runs pretty good. That's great. So anyway, everything works. It's always kind of concerning to drive around your car when it's been lowered this much. Typically you have a lot of interference, but I guess we did a good job. It steers lock to lock, which is awesome. That's normally the hardest part of wide bodying a car, is getting the steering to work all the way in both directions. So it does that, which is great. The rear end I think is going to be fine. We're going to lift the rear up probably a ½ inch to a full inch just to get some more clearance back there. It's still going to look really cool. I mean, it's going to be fine. I tested that out with the jack, but it's going to make it a little bit easier to drive. It's going to give us a lot more travel, and I think it'll make it more useful.
Can we drive somewhere?
We're going to drive back up to the house in just a minute.
No, can we drive this thing to Nene's house then come back home?
No, not yet. It's not legal to do that yet. Okay?
No, I want to drive it somewhere down the road.
Okay.
Just if we can keep it up without letting the wheel fall off. Well, then let's go somewhere.
All right. Daddy's gonna get in first.
I'll get
Hang on, no, you gotta sit in my lap, remember? Okay.
I steer?
Yep, now straddle. All right, so that is it for today's video. We're gonna take this thing back to the shop. In next week's video, we'll be putting our spoiler on, the triple Wingo spoiler. Will go on next week, and we'll finish out.
Then when we get to the grass, we're gonna do burnout.
We're not doing burnouts just yet, but we'll get that sorted. We'll get our rear suspension sorted, and yeah, I guess then we'll take a test drive with the kid on. And if that goes well, we're gonna start getting this thing ready for primer.
You're not about me.
You ready? Let's do it.